Hello, hello. This is Pat with Petresca Papers. I'm going to do a voiceover of a version of the large little lace houses. This is the finished, and as we flip it open, we see the pocket, we see the little offcuts. We're going to make some tag tuck spots. That next piece is a full size that I folded up and made a inside pocket. And then we've got the collage paper right there, and that other piece we just saw was an offcut. That's one of my hibiscus dyed papers. You could use anything, and I folded it over, and then right there's that pocket I was mentioning with that full-size sheet, and there's the other half of those, and I hope you'll want to create a little lace house with me. See you again in a moment. I am out in the Bluebird Bungalow, and we're going to just take a little flip through of that first little lace house, which I created on that introductory video of the Home Sweet Homes little lace houses. That goes along with the hashtag Little Bits of Lace 2024 challenge from Tracy Fox. And so, as I was doing this and creating the papers, I did size it down, but I decided to include in the kit some of the larger version houses that you could decorate yourself. And so that's what we're going to do today. So here's my sheet of the three houses. I'm showing you some of the things that I've pulled that I'm going to decorate with. That's muslin with double-sided tape, and we've got some ripped strips and some fabric and some trim and my little bits of lace. And so now let's cut out the choice, and I'm going to choose that middle house and trim that out on all the edges. Of course, we could choose any of the three that are there, and I did not do them double-sided because they will be glued onto a cover sheet of the cardstock, which will be printed double-sided. So I'm trimming around the house. So the size of the booklet is going to be approximately 8 1/4, probably more like 8 inches. And then I have my glue stick ready to go. I'm going to use glue stick and really apply it liberally when I choose my cover. All right, so I chose the lace collage sheet, and it's backed with the Brussels lace, and so I'm going to trim off all of that white. It just doesn't need to be there. And this will be folded in half because now it's about the same size as our little house, and I'm seeing I need a little cleaner trim along there. And we do need to ink edges. I am using ground espresso, and I'm just doing along those edges so that they're not so brilliant white. Now I've got to decide which side am I going to use. And I'm going to use that collage for the inside because the outside of the house is that collage lace, and that little bit of white left on that isn't going to matter because I am going to be trimming that off. All right, so I've grabbed my glue book and I am applying my glue stick very liberally. Now, glue stick can sometimes not be the most optimal glue, but when we're doing large things like this, it really does give us a smooth adherence without rippling. And I know that There are glue sticks out there that aren't very good, but I think if you choose a good brand and you apply it liberally and you do some good burnishing to make sure that that glue is distributed, you're going to be just fine. All right, so then I'm going to trim and just trim along there. I need to trim down the side of that house. Now, I chose to just do a pamphlet stitch on this. I'm not doing any kind of a width of spine at all. So now I'm going to do my scoring and fold it over. And I think this is what I realized. I really should have put a pocket on that inside, because look how big that side is over there. And so now what I'm going to do is trim off some of that, and then I'll glue it on as another pocket. So I'm going to do a score right where I want it to be, and then fold there, and then I'll trim off that and add that as a pocket on the other side of the house. And you don't need a scoreboard or a trimmer, but it sure makes it easier to be a bit more exact. So there's a pocket, and I'm going to do a little bit of distressing along those white edges and down that crease. And I'm going to glue that shut, or not shut, but glue the edges to make that pocket, just the top and the bottom. And then let's get that other side pocket glued on. Probably need to do a bit of distressing on that also. Yep, got to do our distressing, you know, get those white edges. And then I'm like, maybe I should just do a crosswise pocket, so it's not the same side pocket on both sides. Yeah, I think that looks good, don't you? All right. Well, as I'm gluing this on, I hope everyone is well and weathering the storms that the United States has right now. And I know there have been some severe weather in other parts of the world, and I hope you're all safe and warm. All right, looking at this, I decide I need to trim that to match that front. So I'm going to need to just carefully undo that and add some more glue right along that roof line and the top. And there we've got our cover. So now we get to start the fun, the decorating, which I just love. So now I'm trying to decide doors. Do I want a piece of lace? Do I want a piece of paper? Do I want both? Because what I'm finding is with the lace, it's going to be very see-through, so you need something on the back. So I'm going to grab a couple of sheets of very old, well, it's not that old, I think it was 1940s paper, but boy, is it brittle, which I'm going to find out here as I try to fold it. It's just, it just folds and breaks at the same time. But if I'm not going to be folding it, it works perfect. So I'm trying to decide how wide my house should be, and I think if I look at that right, it was like 1.5 inches that I did. Okay, so now we've got the door size, and see that paper I just trimmed it with my fingernail. So now I'm going to choose windows, and see, as I fold that, it just breaks apart. So I'm trying to decide window sizes and how many, and I think, if I remember right, I come up with several different configurations of windows, which is going to be what happens as you're working on yours, is you'll decide what makes you happiest. And as I look at real houses, I'll kind of go in on Google and look at houses, and windows are very, very different on many houses. So you'll just decide what you like. I think I thought I wanted a round window up there, but in the long run, I do believe that I change my mind. And there I found I think it's, I don't know if it's an inch, I think it's a bit smaller. And as I do that, it just, I don't know if that looks like an inch. But for now, it's going to stay there. And then I am auditioning different laces for the door and or fabrics. So this is what you'll do, is just take the little bits you have and decide what makes you happy as you're looking at it. Yeah, we like that. But I'm not so sure about the music in the back. So I have decided to use some of that coffee colored muslin that I already have on double-sided tape. And unfortunately, I'm going to cut it down just a little so that it's the size of that door. And I'm not going to have my fringy edges, but oh well. Oh well. Yeah, I like the way that looks. So I'm going to distress the edges while it's still on that paper backing. So, yeah, that looks good. All right. And now let's continue on and come up with window ideas. So I'm considering some of this quilt fabric. Bring in some pink. So I'm using those music paper windows as my guide because I liked the size of them. Should have my fabric scissors out here. My old Fiskars are so dull. Now, found that piece of green. Maybe. I am jumping all over the place with doing window and trim, but you kind of have to think that because you want to have enough room with your trim and your windows. So if your trim is going to be big, you want to make sure that you've got the right amount of space. That's an old piece of crochet that I picked up at I think it was an antique store. It's so much fun because it is quite solid, so I can trim it. And I do have that really tan that's almost could work for window shape. And this is just some cotton lace that I think I got on Amazon, and I coffee dyed it. Okay, we're committing. We're committing the door. Taking off the paper backing, and down it goes. Let's hope it's in the middle. I don't think it is. There we go. Now we can commit. And get that lace on there. Trying to decide, do I want it off center? It kind of looked funny when I had it in the center. It almost looked like it had eyes. And doors with eyes now. Now the challenge was how to glue on lace. And so I use my art glitter glue, and I'm just going to apply it kind of spotty around those more solid pieces or pattern of the lace. Then putting it on, it will come up through, and so I'm pushing down, and I grab a piece of some waxy paper that I have and rub over it. Well, I do on some of the other ones. Okay, so here's a little rosette from a wedding dress. I bought a wedding dress at a thrift shop and came up with scads and scads of tulle and pearls and satin and these little flowers, which are so cute. So it's a lot of fun. All right, so I pulled out my double-sided tape because it was so easy to put that door on. So I am going to put the windows on the double-sided tape. And it looks like that's my inch double-sided tape, and the windows are bigger than an inch. And so I will be having to put another little strip of tape on it. Oh, I didn't. I cut the windows down. Oh, those look good. Yeah, and then that darker lace on the top. Now I'm looking at that and I'm not so sure I'm loving it. It's a little bit too different than the other windows. Nah, whole different color altogether. But I do have a similar type lace, but again it is a lot lighter, and so I'm going to put some distress around the edge of the windows, and I'm going to distress that piece of lace for that longer window. Okay, it's time to commit. Down go the windows. Let's see if Pat can get them on there. It's kind of nice. There is a line on that collage sheet of lace that I can use as a guide. if I can get the backing off. All right, windows in place, and on goes the long window. Yeah, it's almost like grill work on the windows with that lace overlay. Again, putting my art glitter glue with the very, very fine tip right on those. See, and there's where I'm using that backing off of the paper tape, the double-sided tape. I'm realizing it's a little too light, so let's darken it up a little bit with just a couple of rubs of that ground espresso. And again with the glue. No, not the pink. This is some burlap trim that I finally decide I like the pink, to pull in the pink of the windows, but then in the end it just seemed a bit too pink. And I come to realize I'm going to do that burlap. I'm going to put down a strip of my double-sided tape right onto, I think I'm realizing right now that I am out of that size, so I had to go down to a smaller one, and I'll do 2 strips of that. And on it goes, and just turn that off. And in retrospect, I should put a strip of glue also along underneath that jute trim. So the round window got thrown out. I'm going to go with a piece of that coffee colored muslin. There we go. We're committing. It's always fun when I finally commit, isn't it? And I stuck it back on a piece of that backing so I could distress that edge. I'd forgotten. Okay. There's our little attic window. And that's when I decide, oh, I need to do shutters. So enter the music paper. We're going to use the the music cut down and use those as shutters. And we need some down there. Now I'm looking at my placement of those two windows. I didn't leave enough. Well, it works, but I could have had more space on each side. And that's why it's good before you start committing to make sure you've got all your pieces cut and you assemble it in the best way. This is not the best way, but it works. It still works. And then some, decide that I want the shutters kind of to mirror each other a little more. Ones with more notes. Trying to decide window or flower. So the window on the door, not sure about that. So just getting that distressed. Do I like it? Do I not like it? Let's go back to the little flower. I have one that I've trimmed off that extra tool, but it's hiding. Found it on the floor. Okay, so need a little bit of Grand Espresso around all those shutters and get them ready to glue on. Looking at my finger. Inky fingers. All right, here we go with just little beads of art glitter glue to glue them down. Sure wish I'd have put those windows further over. But it all works. No. 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 So pink. We're going to do some pink on that upper attic window. And on go the little shutters. I don't put a chimney on this, and in looking at it, I should. I definitely could do that at any point. Trying to decide, pardon me, trying to decide if we need like a little overhang on that. And it kind of finishes off the edge of that door. It's kind of like a little porch, but I'm figuring out that jute does not want to stick with just glue, so I need some double-sided tape. I keep pulling off the whole tape. You can do it. Come on. I started breaking fingernails. I had such a nice set of fingernails, and one broke and then another broke, and I'm like, okay, fine. We'll just take them all off. And after I've had fingernails and don't have fingernails, it gets really hard. Oh, so I gave up with those skinny pieces and just recut a thicker piece. There we go. You're thinking now, Pat. Okay, on goes the little flower. And now we need a doorknob. So I'm off to pull some buttons. Nope, those are red. Go get the pink ones. There we are. Okay, that was easy. First one. All right, I think we're just about there. What do you think?